Planet the Alien. Welcome back. This is week 14 of the $2 Beginner Poker Challenge. We're turning $2 into $2,000 playing poker without making an initial deposit. And this graph you're looking at is results from the previous 13 weeks. Last week we were up $28. The bankroll total was $295, which is 14.8% of our way to the $2,000 goal. The win rate was 8.3 big blinds per 100 hands. We had a bad week. This was our first losing week. So let's have a look and try to figure out what happened. This is a 5-pound NL table. We get a limp and I complete in the small blind. Normally I'd fold this, but looking at this guy's stats, he's 77-44, playing almost the whole deck. He looks like a bad player and I want to get in pots with this guy. We see it three-way, we hit 2-pair. I overbet the pot again because we're playing against fish. This guy's gonna call with a lot and he's probably not paying attention to the size. He's only looking at the 2 cards in his hand. He calls. Now that's kind of a scary turn card. He could have a flush. He could also have a ton of other draws. Maybe he's got 1 diamond. Who knows what he's got? I'm just gonna barrel and then give up on the turn if another diamond comes. And the other diamond comes, so we check it. He checks and he takes it down with a 7-high flush. So on the flop he was calling with a gut shot and a king. He hit the king on the turn. We were still ahead, but then that 4th diamond on the river gave him a flush. This is 5 NL 6 max. We open up ace king. We get called by the big blind and we hit top pair, top kicker. He checks to us, we bet out, he raises. Alright, so we gotta ask, what is his range here? This raise kind of does look like a set or 2-pair that is scared of the flush draw and the straight draw. But if he had aces, kings, or queens, he probably would have 3-bet that pre-flop. So that leaves pocket 7s, which is definitely possible, and maybe king, queen. He might have ace, rag of clubs here for a flush draw, maybe even a straight draw. So we'll call and we'll proceed with caution. The turn is a brick. He checks to us, so he probably doesn't have a set or 2-pair. He'd probably be raising again because he'd still be scared of the draws out there. So we bet again. This is kind of a small bet. I think it should have been bigger. At the time I wasn't thinking as deeply about his range as we are now, so I was probably more scared of sets than I should have been, which is why I only bet half pot here. And he calls and the turn pretty much completes every draw. He donks half pot and I can't really think of anything that we beat here, so we fold. This is 5 NL 6 max. We're 5-handed. And just want to point out the fish at the table. He's playing 63% of hands. He is the reason we are at this table. We have position on him and everybody else at the table looks like a decent or semi-decent regular player. And the fish folds. We open up ace 2 suited here and we get called by the rest of the table. Checks around to us and we c-bet with a nut flush draw here, which is a mistake. The reason the c-bet sucks is because we have pretty much 0 fold equity. This c-bet is a semi-bluff. We don't have a made hand. So with semi-bluffs, basically, you want people to fold and then you win. As a backup plan, if you don't get folds, at least you got a chance to hit your draw. But here, this is a bad spot. Even though we got the nut flush draw, the problem is this board nails everybody's range. Anybody with 2 broadways has equity. They have 2 overcards and a straight draw, or they got a pair and a straight draw, or they got 2-pair, or they got a set, or they got an overpair. Pretty much everybody has something. So at the time I probably had a few tables going and I was on autopilot. I had the nut flush draw, so I c-bet, and thinking about what Jared Tendler says about unconscious competence. Here my unconscious autopilot is telling me to c-bet, and I haven't experienced spots like this enough to automatically know that this is not a good spot for c-betting. We get 1 caller, which is not surprising, and the turn completes a straight draw if he happens to have a 9 in his hand. Not very likely, I think, but he could still have an overpair, a pair, or a set. He checks and we check too. The river gives us the nut flush, which is not the nuts because we are now behind a full house. And villain bets out about half pot here. And what should you do? I think the right move here is just calling, but I decide to raise, which now I'm just looking at and I'm thinking, oh, that's so disgusting. And we get raised. Obviously you're thinking he's got a full house. There's just no way that we're ahead here, but I call anyway. And he turns over a full house. So we made a few mistakes that hand. Well, we didn't make them, I made them. But it feels better when I partially blame you too. The biggest mistake was raising the river. That was just so stupid. You don't raise a flush when the board is paired against a player who's not a huge fish. So that should be in my autopilot, but apparently it's not. And hopefully after reviewing this hand, I've drilled that into my brain a bit more and I'm not going to make this mistake again. We're at an NL5 table here, and notice the massive whale playing 89% of hands here, and he's got a $30 stack. We have a $10 stack and we want to double up through this guy. So we open up 4x here. It's a little bigger than normal because we know the fish is going to call. He has to see every flop. So our aces are probably good here. We bet out. He calls. We're just going to keep piling the money in as fast as we can because this guy's a fish and he has to see every flop, turn, and river. Notice his fold to C bet on the flop is 42. On the turn it's 9, and on the river he's almost never folding. And we're probably still good here. We're just going to keep piling the money in. And he turns over king 8. This guy sucks out by hitting 2 pair with a crappy hand. And that's poker. You know, the fish, they suck out, they win sometimes. It keeps them in the game. But I'll be honest, I think I spilt my coffee here. I slammed my fist on the table and my coffee, knocked my coffee over. I got coffee everywhere. If I want to be a good poker player, I'm going to have to find a way to deal with these bad beats. You know, roll with the punches instead of getting upset and then tilting for the rest of the session. This is NL5 again, and this guy opens for 10 cents, or what? No, this is pounds, so that's 10 pence, 10 shillings, 10 shekels. I don't know, I'm not very cultured. I'm gonna pause and Google that. Okay, I'm back. It's pence. He opens for 10 pence, and we'll raise that. Folds around, and he min 4 bets. So let's stop for a second, look at his stats. We have 5 hands on him. Looks kind of fishy, but it's a small sample size. The note says huge spaz width. So I think, I don't remember, but I think there was some history here, and we probably had more than 5 hands on him. This is 5 hands 4-handed, but the stats were probably different when it was 6-handed. This is only showing 4-handed stats. And anyway, you gotta call that. It's only 25 more shekels, pence. I apologize to the viewers in the UK. We whiff the flop, but we do have 2 overs, and he bets half, a little less than half pot here. It's hard to put this guy on a range. He might be really loose. I'm not sure by looking at these stats. But we could say, you know, 2 broadways. He probably doesn't have 2s or 7s. He might have a set with 10s, an overpair. But I think you can't fold ace, king. So we call that. We hit the ace, he shoves, and against this guy I think you got to call. The only thing he can really have here that we're behind is pocket 10s and maybe pocket aces, which we have blockers to. So yeah, don't know what he's got. Maybe it's ace king, maybe it's ace queen. We call and he turns over kings. He got really lucky on that river. So we did have him labeled correctly as a spaz. He shoved that ace turn with an underpair. What is he trying to get an ace to fold there? Anyway, so villain kind of sucks out there, and that's poker. So this week sucked. I played really bad and I was very tilted. Let's have a look at the graph here, and we'll throw on the EV line. We had a few huge all-in suckouts at the start of the week, and this seems to be a pattern. We get huge suckouts followed by bad performance. The suckouts are not the problem. Bad beats are part of poker. The problem is that I let it bother me and I get angry and then I play poorly. Technically, I think I'm a much better player than these results, and what I need to work on is my mental game. I felt really bad about poker this week. I felt like giving up. I was so frustrated, and I really didn't feel like making this video to publicize my mistakes and my tilt problems. I've been thinking about stopping this video series, not just because of these feelings of discouragement, but also because in the future I'm going to have less free time to spend on poker and making videos. Anyway, for now we'll take it 1 week at a time and we'll see what happens. This week we were down $28. The bankroll total is $256, which is 12.8% of our way to the $2,000 goal. The win rate was negative 1.4 big blinds per 100 hands. So that wraps it up for the week. You can find me on evthealien.com. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter as evthealien. If you want to admonish me for playing a hand like a donkey, you can. Just leave a comment below. I'm evthealien. Get it in good, and see you in the next video.